Hey everyone, it's August 9th, and that means that if today's your birthday, you share with serial killer Dallen Forrest Bounds, who murdered at least 4 victims in South Carolina in 1999. And that Michigan fan is him right up there. Bounds was born in rural Oregon in 1971 and grew up in a suburb of Olympia, Washington, before finding work as a butcher. But before he had turned 20, he had already spent a year in prison for stealing guns and being in possession of stolen property. He got married in the 1990s, and he and his wife moved to Lake Havasu, Arizona, where he was arrested for domestic violence in 1997. Bounds moved to Tucson the next year, where he was charged with disorderly conduct, but eventually relocated to Greenville, South Carolina, moving in with friends. In June of 1999, the body of a Radio Shack employee in Greenville was found zip-tied to a chair in the back room of his store, having been stabbed in the neck with a screwdriver. There were no signs of a struggle, nothing appeared to be taken, and the killer had locked the front door and hung up the closed sign before leaving the scene. Police were flummoxed, and it was still an open case when another body was found at a florist 6 months later. This time, someone had walked into a flower shop in broad daylight, ordered the clerk to the back room, then slit her throat, leaving her face down in a pool of blood. Her body was discovered when another branch couldn't get a hold of anyone at the location, so they sent a delivery man to find out what was going on. Once again, the front door was locked and the closed sign was hanging in the window, and nothing appeared to have been taken from the scene. Detectives noticed similarities between the crime scenes and suspected they may be dealing with a serial killer. They didn't yet know that Bounds was the culprit, but they were about to find out. The next day, police were called to the residence of the ex-husband of a woman Bounds had briefly dated and stalked when things ended. She had paged her husband with 911 to signal an emergency at 1:30 in the morning, then headed to his house. Bounds also headed to the man's house, likely following his ex-girlfriend there. He broke in through a window, shot the woman in the head, then followed the ex-husband as he fled. A 911 call was placed just before the ex-husband entered a neighbor's house, with Bounds shooting him as the neighbor hid in the closet. He then fled the scene and took refuge in a home, taking 2 women hostage. After 12 hours, police stormed the house and Bounds shot himself in the head, dying instantly. A goodbye letter was found on his body, written on Marvin the Martian notepaper, giving a confession to the murder of his ex-girlfriend, saying, "My mind is a whirling mess of emotion. I was a madman. God forgive me. I don't know what happened last night. I really don't. I'm so alone. Forgive me. Why did I do this? I'm sorry." 2 weeks later, investigators were able to connect Bounds to the earlier murders when his roommate turned over evidence that forensically tied him to the scene. She was convicted and sentenced to 15 years for being an accessory after the fact for hiding information about his whereabouts during the search for the killer, but was released from prison a few years later. No motive for the killing of the store clerks has ever been disclosed. Bounds is also believed to have killed several people in Washington state before moving to South Carolina, but they officially remain unsolved murders. If this is your birthday, I hope you have a great day. Leave me a comment so I can wish you a happy birthday. If you know someone whose birthday it is today, send them this video so they can find out all about their birthday twin. And to Dallen Forrest Bounds, I say, happy birthday, you bastard.
Being disintegrated makes me